Have you ever wondered what drove Franklin D. Roosevelt to break tradition and seek a third term as president? You see, the American presidency traditionally stopped at 2 terms. This unwritten rule was respected by all presidents, from George Washington to Herbert Hoover. The 2-term tradition was so embedded in the psyche of the nation, it was almost regarded as an inviolable constitutional provision. Yet, in 1940, Roosevelt decided to shatter this convention. Why? What was so compelling about the state of the world, or perhaps the state of the nation, that Roosevelt felt the need to continue his leadership beyond the expected tenure? Was it personal ambition, a sense of duty, or a combination of both? These are questions that have intrigued historians and political analysts for decades. Join us as we delve into the factors that led Roosevelt to make this unprecedented decision. Roosevelt's journey towards a third term began in the late 1930s. It was a time of tumult, both at home and abroad. The world was teetering on the brink of a second global conflict, as Axis powers in Europe and Asia flexed their military muscles. The United States, still recovering from the Great Depression, was a nation on the edge, grappling with economic uncertainty and an escalating international crisis. Back in the 30s, presidential terms were not limited by the Constitution. It was, however, a long-standing tradition for presidents to step aside after 2 terms, a precedent set by the nation's first president, George Washington. But Roosevelt, a man not known for shying away from controversy, had other ideas. The global crisis was escalating, and Roosevelt firmly believed that he was the man to guide the nation through these trying times. He had steered the ship of state through the stormy seas of the Depression, implementing bold reforms and programs that had breathed new life into the American economy. Now, as the world stood on the precipice of another great war, Roosevelt felt that his steady hand was needed at the helm. At home, Roosevelt's New Deal had brought relief to millions of Americans struggling with the crippling effects of the Depression. He had shown that he could handle crisis, and many Americans trusted him to lead them through the looming global conflict. But not everyone agreed. Critics accused him of overreaching, of trying to consolidate power, of breaking with tradition. Despite the mounting opposition, Roosevelt was convinced that his leadership was indispensable. He saw the storm clouds gathering on the horizon, and he believed that he was the best man to navigate the nation through the coming tempest. His decision to seek a third term was not without controversy, and it would prove to be one of the most significant moments in American political history. In 1940, Roosevelt made the controversial decision to run for a third term. This decision, unprecedented in the annals of American political history, sparked a whirlwind of reactions from all corners of the nation. On one side, his own party, the Democrats, were torn. Some felt that Roosevelt's experience and proven leadership were critical, given the escalating global crisis. They believed in his ability to navigate the rough seas of international conflicts with a steady hand, a keen eye, and a steadfast resolve. These supporters argued that the 2-term tradition was just that, a tradition, not a law. However, there were also Democrats who believed in the sanctity of the 2-term tradition, fearing that breaking it could pave the way for future abuses of power. They argued that Roosevelt's decision was a dangerous precedent, a slippery slope to an American monarchy or dictatorship. Outside the Democratic Party, the Republicans were largely united in their opposition to Roosevelt's third-term bid. They accused him of power hunger, of being a threat to the democratic principles upon which the nation was founded. They warned the public of the dangers of one person holding on to power for too long. The public opinion was a mirror of this political divide. Some citizens, especially those who had benefited from Roosevelt's New Deal policies, were supportive of his decision. They trusted his leadership and believed in his vision for the nation. Others, however, were suspicious and fearful of the potential undermining of democratic norms. Despite this maelstrom of controversy and opposition, Roosevelt remained unshaken. He defended his decision with the conviction of a man who truly believed in his cause. In the face of rising global conflict, he argued, the nation needed a leader with a proven track record, a leader who had already weathered storms and could do so again. Roosevelt stood firm in his decision, asserting the necessity of his leadership in these tumultuous times. He was resolute, ready to guide the nation through the escalating global crisis with steadfast resolve. The 1940 election was a historic event, marking Roosevelt's third victory. This was an unprecedented moment in American politics. Up until that point, no US president had ever served more than 2 terms, a tradition dating back to George Washington. Roosevelt, however, was not an ordinary president, and these were not ordinary times. The world was on the brink of the most devastating conflict in human history. With Europe already at war, Roosevelt believed that only he had the experience and the resolve to guide the nation during such a perilous period. The American people seemed to agree, as they voted him into office for a 3rd term by a significant margin. Roosevelt's 3rd term would prove to be transformative, not only for America but for the world. It was during this term that the United States, under his leadership, would join the Allies in World War II. Roosevelt's decision to seek a 3rd term was not only about securing his political legacy, but about ensuring the survival and prosperity of the democratic world. Roosevelt's leadership during the war years was not without controversy. His decision to intern Japanese Americans and his use of atomic weapons against Japan remain contentious issues to this day. However, it's undeniable that his steadfast resolve during this time helped shape the world we live in today. His 3rd term also had a profound impact on American politics. In 1951, the 22nd Amendment was ratified, limiting future presidents to 2 terms. This was a clear reaction to Roosevelt's unprecedented 4-term presidency and a testament to the profound influence he had on American political culture. Roosevelt's 3rd term set a precedent that would shape the future of American politics. His decision to seek a 3rd term and the American people's decision to grant him one serve as a reminder of the extraordinary measures that leaders and nations may feel compelled to take in times of crisis. Roosevelt's 3rd term has left a lasting impact on the American political landscape. This impact is most tangibly seen in the ratification of the 22nd Amendment. This amendment, passed in 1951, established a limit of 2 terms for US presidents, a direct response to Roosevelt's unprecedented 4-term presidency. The 22nd Amendment was not without controversy. Supporters argued it would prevent the emergence of a potential dictatorship, maintaining the democratic principles the nation was founded on. They emphasized the importance of fresh perspectives and the prevention of stagnation in leadership. On the other hand, critics argued that it restricted the democratic rights of the people, who should be free to elect their leader of choice, regardless of the number of terms served. The debate surrounding term limits continues to this day. Some argue that the ability to serve more than 2 terms allows a president to implement long-term policies without the pressure of re-election. Others maintain that term limits promote political diversity and prevent the concentration of power. Roosevelt's decision to run for a 3rd term was born out of a belief in his ability to lead the nation through a period of global unrest. His leadership during the Second World War is often cited as a justification for his 3rd term, with proponents arguing that his experience and stability were invaluable in such uncertain times. However, critics argue that Roosevelt's 3rd term set a dangerous precedent, undermining the tradition of peaceful transition of power and threatening the balance of power within the government. Regardless of one's stance on the issue, it's undeniable that Roosevelt's 3rd term has had a profound influence on US politics, shaping the way we understand the presidency today. Roosevelt's decision to run for a third term continues to spark debate, reflecting the enduring relevance of his presidency. Whether seen as a necessary response to extraordinary circumstances or a dangerous break from tradition, Roosevelt's third term remains a defining moment in American political history. Today, we've examined the circumstances and consequences of Roosevelt's decision to seek a third term. We've witnessed the journey that led him to this unprecedented choice, influenced by the mounting global crisis and the belief in his ability to guide the United States through it. We've delved into the aftermath of his decision, the controversy it sparked, and the defense Roosevelt put forth, asserting the necessity of his leadership in such tumultuous times. We've looked at the impact of his third term, how it altered the course of the nation and set a precedent in American politics. Finally, we've explored the legacy of this term, the profound imprint it left on the nation's history, and the ongoing debates it continues to trigger. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of Roosevelt's third term is the ongoing conversation it inspires about leadership, tradition, and the evolving needs of a nation.